we were playing really good basketball at the end of the year, and that's sort of our job. To go in and sort of at the end of the year go to Alabama and really have a chance to win that game with our backs against the wall. Really tough loss. Some crazy calls, and we just didn't get it done. But and then to come home and beat Tennessee in a game we really had to have again. Go in the tournament, go up against an Arkansas team that always plays well late because they're so talented. They're going to have 4 guys get drafted, 2 lotteries, maybe 3 first rounds, and 4 guys drafted. And they were 10 seed in the SEC. That just tells you the world that we're living in right now in our league. Have a shot to either tie or to win it. And then go to the NCAA tournament and beat one of the better teams in the Big Ten in Iowa and beat them from start to finish. And then outplay the number 2 team in the country in Houston for the first half and have a 10-point lead. Tells you that we're playing really good basketball at the end of the year. So I was very pleased that we made a tournament and we advanced. Now come to the beginning of the year. You lose 2 first-round draft picks in Walker and Jabari. We've never had 2 first-round draft picks. You lose the best front line in college basketball. But you're able to bring back Jalen Williams, who, most Jalen Williamses would have left Auburn when Jabari Smith came, but this Jalen Williams didn't, because he loved Auburn and a true Auburn man. Could have left after he graduated, been a grad transfer, didn't, came back for another grad season. So Jalen Williams returning to that roster was huge. And then getting Janai Broome was huge. Stephen Pearl did a great job in the recruitment of Janai. And Janai answered a lot of questions about going from mid-major to high major. Could he? He certainly could. He certainly did, particularly offensively. He's got to work harder defensively and be more of a factor at rebounding and defending. But to lose that and still bring back a team that was good enough to play with the best teams in the country, be nationally relevant, have College Game Day come to campus for the 3rd time in 3 years, short of a COVID year, to continue to sell out at home and have Neville Arena be the home court advantage that it is, to have some big, road wins and some big, non-conference wins. Overall, it was a good year. It approached being a very good year. It wasn't a great year. Certainly wasn't a great year by the standards that we've set. But it was a good year.
What does that mean? You talk about the standards we set, and you're right. I see what the fans say on a daily basis, and you're right. The expectations have risen to an amazing degree for Auburn basketball. Really, you're talking about regular season championships, a tournament, Final Four, a number 2 seed before COVID hit. Last year was the first, so if you want to say year in terms of your standards, I guess, right? Where fans were fans were like, boy, we wanted more. But what does that say that you got it? You're at that point?
Look, I'd rather have it that way.
Yeah.
Right. And feel like we're a top 25 program. Last year was still like one of the top 10 seasons in the history of Auburn basketball, right?
Right.
So you have to keep it in perspective, and I do. It's the other. Otherwise, I drive myself crazy. And listen, I also don't hear or even read what the fans do say. I don't get involved in it. I don't have time.
Right.
And I don't like disappointing people. So it would probably hurt my feelings if I knew our fans were that upset. Look, I thought our team played to the level of its ability. I really do. I thought we hung in there. We had a lot of close losses. Those are on me. But we were in a lot of games. Part of the reason why I made the tournament was, we go to Tennessee and about beat them. We go to Texas A&M and about beat them. We go to Alabama, should have beaten them. We won, some games at home. We only had, the 2 losses at home, and we didn't lose to a bad team. But I get it. And listen, with NIL and the transfer portal now, there's a shift, and here's the shift. It is way easier for anybody to get something going. Like it's easier to do what I've done than it is to keep doing what I've done. It's easier to get it going than it is to keep it going. It's easier to, and now with NIL, we got people that can get it going in a hurry. And the teams at the bottom of our league are all playing really, really hard in that space. And so now in recruiting, it's not about player development as much. It's not about winning championships. It's not about sellout crowds. It's not about college game day. Not about Neville Arena. Not about our culture. All the things that were the foundation for the development of our program, which aren't going to change under me. I'm old school. That stuff still matters. Our work ethic, the kind of guys that we bring in here, praying before our meals, loving our country, being Auburn men, that's the foundation of our program. We are thanks to On to Victory, we are able to compete in the NIL space, but we're not leading it. And that's just, that fact is going to create a leveler playing field in league competition. That's the biggest difference. I mean, a few years ago, Bruce Pearl expectations, our program was elevated above everybody else's, short of maybe Kentucky in our league, Tennessee, us, we're right there. NIL's played a big factor in leveling the playing field.
I want to talk about, you mentioned culture a little bit, kind of what your program's about. I want to talk about that in a second. But on the NIL front, just in general, how would you best describe to people the difficulty now in evaluating your roster at all times, especially after season's end? You're worrying about who's coming, who's going.
Yep.
You're also looking in the portal, but you can't quite recruit in the portal sometimes because you don't know who's coming back. And then you got the draft, and guys are flirting with the draft. How do you balance that 60 days or whatever that's like?
Well, roster management's never been more challenging. March, April, and early May were 3 incredible work months for us. Like all day, all weekend, because of roster management. It broke my heart to lose some kids in the portal. Absolutely broke my heart to see some guys leave. But that's the nature of, if you're not playing enough or if you don't have enough of a role, get in the transfer portal, start to compete in the NIL space, and if we don't win, we don't keep our jobs. Desperate people do desperate things. There's a lot of desperation going on out there in the NIL. And it's interesting. I listened to an interview with Charlie Baker, our new NCAA president, who I've not met yet. I hope to meet. I hope he can get it fixed. But one of the things I heard during College World Series game is he said that there are a lot more kind of horror stories about NIL than reality. Mr. Baker, I'm here to tell you, this is real. It's not fiction. The NIL money that's out there, that's being offered, is real, and it's changed the game. Look, I am happy that our players, most of whom will not be able to make the NBA, are now finally going to get a realistic scholarship. They're now going to be able to participate a bit in some of the revenue sharing. They're going to get a chance to participate because they are going to profit from their own name, image, and likeness. I think the foundation of that is great. I'm a capitalist. I'm conservative. This is what made our country great. At the same time, this free market and the supply and demand obviously has changed recruiting. In a sense, there are no limits. There is no order. There is no structure. So as a result, it is free agency without a salary cap. So it's if we're going to have a National Collegiate Athletic Association, if we're going to have a national champion, then there needs to be what the NCAA had, and that much more of a consistent, fair, similar playing field. Every state is doing their own thing. They're all running to the bottom, and as a result, having a national set of rules is becoming more difficult. And so we got to try to get a handle on it. That all said, still what we're doing is amazing. That all said, the model is still terrific. That all said, if the NCAA had been more aggressive, they should have settled the NO bet in case years ago. They shouldn't have fought it. It was a losing battle. They should have settled it, and they should have started compensating the students sooner. There are a lot we could have a whole nother discussion on things that we need to do, but there needs to be a national plan to get us back all on the same playing field.
You mentioned the NIL. How was the trip to Washington D.C. with I mean, you had Hugh Freeze and John Cohen.
The trip to Washington D.C. with the SEC was terrific.
Yeah.
We were able to, and the Congress, senators, congressmen, and women that we met were phenomenal. They all understand the problem, and they all understand the urgency. But we did not do a great job in coming there with a solutions to the problem. And that's what the leadership needs to do, whether it be Mr. Baker at the NCAA, the commissioners of all the Power Five conferences, the Coach Association, people way smarter than me and better lawyers than me need to get their heads together and come to Congress with a plan and see if we can get some sort of a national program.
Switching back to recruiting strategy a little bit, how do you sort of balance now the shift in recruiting high school freshmen versus transfer portal guys, and how does that change moving forward?
So basically the last 2 years, top 100 high school players in the country, roughly between 16 and 18 of those players each of the last 2 years, about 16 to 18, average double-digit minutes and double-digit points in Power 5. That means if you're not a McDonald's All-American, or very rarely not a large percentage of top 100, you're just not playing as much as you used to play because of COVID, 5th and 6th years, and guys being older, because the grad transfer, because the transfer portal, because of exceptions. The one-time transfer is fine. I used to sit out somebody all the time and have them get a year older and a year better. Deshaun Murray, Samir Dowdy, love bringing guys in and having them sit out, and what a benefit that was. And I never looked at sitting out as a penalty. It was about getting bigger, getting stronger, getting academically more comfortable, investing in your body and your game and your academics. It also helped get with graduation rates. We don't hear anything about graduation rates anymore. Nothing about APR. That's the academic performance rating. Nothing about progress towards degrees. None of that stuff anymore. That used to carry the day. We're still doing a great job with all that stuff. But make it a one-time transfer. And if you decide you want to use the one-time transfer to be eligible right away, great, use it. If you don't want to use it and you want to sit out, you still have it in your back pocket in case you want to use it. But now what they're doing is they transfer, they get eligible right away, and then they transfer again and they appeal it, and they win all these appeals for mental health or other challenges or whatever, because the NCAA is not willing to fight that fight. The NCAA has told us we're not granting appeals. That's what our compliance people have told us. So we didn't bring any transfer folks on appeal. They were all good to go. And there were a lot of guys out there that had already transferred that we could have gotten that we chose to not take, because this is what the NCAA said. We'll see what's going to happen in the fall now about who does and doesn't make these transfer portals. So love our guys. The idea is getting older. That's the deal. We'll take 1 or 2 high school players every year, 1 or 2, maybe 4 in 2 years. 4 or 5 in 2 years. So last year we only took 1 in Dayton Holloway. This year we may take a couple more, but the days of taking 3 and 4 high school players every year are over right now. The NCAA tournament showed us that you got to get older. And so we have got a roster this year at Auburn that is older and more experienced, and I think that should help us.
Is there an ideal number in terms of roster turnover, or is it literally every year it feels like it's just going to be a completely new story and then you just start over?
Yep, every year you're going to have to start over.
Yeah.
It's going to have to start over. You hope that, I think one of the advantages we have at Auburn is, I think generally speaking, people don't want to leave Auburn because it's such a great place. Generally speaking, even the guys that transferred a year ago really didn't want to transfer. Look, Stretch wasn't going to play ahead of Dylan Cardwell and Janai Broom. Once those guys both came back, I'm so happy for Stretch that he's going to get a chance. Going to go to George Washington, I think. And that's what a great thing. Love him. Going to graduate from Auburn. If we lost either Janai or Dylan for whatever reason, I would have loved to have had Stretch come back, and I think he would have come back. Al was going to go to the pros. Wendell did go pro, and I'm excited for Wendell. He's had a lot of really good workouts. I was disappointed to see the 2 freshmen leave. Again, broke my heart. Think they both are going to be really good players in the future. They could have happened here, but they weren't playing enough early in their careers. They just didn't feel they felt like they could play earlier somewhere else. And unfortunately, the rules teach kids to flee, not fight. Don't like it. But love the guys we brought in. Love Aiden as a freshman to come in and compete with Trey Donaldson. Trey Donaldson's had a phenomenal spring and summer as far as how hard he's worked, how hard he's playing. And those two guys are going to give us really good point guard play. They can both do different things, but Aiden's got some special in him. He can really shoot it. And the work ethic of this team will be the best work ethic I've ever had. Breakfast club, guys coming at 6:30 in the morning on their own. We have 7 to 8 guys every single day. Denver Jones, KD Johnson, your typical scoring guards. We'll miss Sepp Jasper's defense. We'll miss his leadership. We'll miss one of the best on-ball defenders in the country. Denver's a great shooter. Great shooter. And he can really play offensively. And he's in the right space defensively. KD's a great athlete who's had the best spring and summer he's ever had as far as his work ethic is concerned. Really, really, really going to find out just how good he can be this year. Al Flanagan was playing great at the end of last year. And it would have been nice to see what he could have done coming back for, a graduate year or a senior year, but decided to leave, whether go pro or go transfer. He's put his name in the transfer portal. Disappointed to see Al leave. Because he played so well at the end of the year, worked so hard. Chris Moore, Leo Berman, and then Chad Baker, who was somebody that we recruited kind of late. Junior college player, won championships in junior college. Really talented player, knows how to play, can really shoot it. When we get his body a little bigger, a little stronger, Chad's got great upside. He could really play. And he's really long and good kid and a hard worker. And as a sophomore at San Diego State, before he went to junior college last year, had 18 points in the first half against Creighton in an NCAA tournament game. Chad can play. Chris is tough as nails. Obviously got the shoulder surgery and his progress offset this summer. And then Leo Berman is a guy that I had complete confidence in. And Leo is one of our hardest working guys. He can make shots, he can defend, he's tough. Leo will be out there. At the power forward spot, the 4th spot, we got Jalen Williams. How do you recruit to a Jalen Williams? How? Who wants to come in and play behind Jalen Williams? Well, Chaney Johnson didn't come in to play behind Jalen Williams. Chaney Johnson came in to challenge Jalen, maybe move Jalen to a different position. Maybe one of those guys can play the 3 spot. Who knows? And so Chaney Johnson comes in as a Division II player, humble, hungry, talented. We saw it firsthand when we played against him. One of our hardest workers, very, very skilled offensively, can go by you, can make shots. He's athletic, he's bouncy. He's going to play. And Jalen has had a great offseason and is going to continue to build on what he started last year. Jalen Williams got some special in him. And then Dylan and Janai on the front line. Again, bringing back, Dylan, who's going to be more aggressive offensively this year, is elite defensively, rebounding, shot blocking, rim protecting. Janai, elite offensively, got to the foul line more than any other player in our league on the inside. Can shoot it, can put it on the floor, can pass it, can play make it, is physical, needs to run on defense and rebounding and rim protection. Otherwise, he would have been in the NBA draft. Coming back was a great thing. So there it is. That's it. That's it right there in a nutshell. There's 11 guys on scholarship. We'll probably put another walk-on scholarship. And then the one guy I had mentioned was AD on the front line. Another junior college player who was a guy that was a single-digit scorer, rebounder, but we think he's got some really, really good upside. We think in a year from now, not that he might not compete this year, he's going to compete this year, but we've got some veteran guys in the front line. He looked at it, he saw it, he knew it, he said, it's okay. I know I'm late to the game as far as playing. He didn't start playing basketball until about 4 or 5 years ago. Come in, do this training. He's going to give us some depth in the front line and be able to athletically. He could do some things, but he's definitely somebody that needs to continue to train and work. That's 12. Another walk-on scholarship would be 13. That's the roster.
Offensively, last year had some droughts, I guess, at times offensively where it struggled to scoring. Do you address that as the best way? Obviously, the best way is probably just talent, get a bunch of good
We're,
shooters.
we're,
but
we're better offensively
Yeah.
than we were defensively. Defense could be an issue for us.
Mhm.
And because Al was physical, Wendell could defend and was physical, could make plays defensively, stole the ball a lot. But we'll be better offensively this year. We'll shoot it better this year. And I think we've got some guys that know how to play. We're going to do a few things. I'm making a few offensive adjustments in my system this year. We're going to try a little bit more 5 out, something that we've always been 4 out and spread. We're going to do a little bit more 5 out, and I think our personnel's suited to it. Our shooting is suited to it. So, look, it's a work in progress. I like my roster. I like my depth, and I like the work ethic on this team. And but it'll definitely be a work in progress. It's an older team. This team will be picked 6th or 7th in the SEC with my anticipation. You'll have Kentucky and Tennessee, Arkansas and Alabama, and Texas A&M. Those 5 will all be picked ahead of us. And I understand the talent on the roster, the depth on the roster. I think we will then be in that next group. I think Florida could be up there with us. We'll see who else is in that group. That's about where we were picked last year. It's about where we finished. But I like the position that we're in.
Last question. You talked about culture. When you talk about having to deal with guys coming in and out, you got a new assistant coach, right? There's a change there. How do you maintain the culture year in and year out in this new world?
Look, part of the way you maintain the culture is by just reading the Auburn Creed. Simply doing the things that God would have us do. Praying before your meals, loving on your country, doing the community service, not being jealous of another man's success. Do I make the other 4 guys out there better? You'll notice that in recruiting, a mid-major player in Denver Jones out of Conference USA, a high mid-major player. Okay, 2 junior college players, a Division II player. These guys are humble and they're hungry. That's part of our culture. They're so blessed and excited to be at Auburn, and their work ethic is really good. And the guys that we return are really good team players. And so, and then you bring a guy in like Corey Williams. And so I've got to live with, you want to judge me? Judge me by the people I surround myself with. Judge me by my staff. Judge me by the character of our players. And I'm done with that.